still quite windy. No rain, thankfully. Cloud just doesn't want to go away, unfortunately, but the sun's breaking through, and when there's a gap in the clouds, just even for a few minutes, the sun's quite pleasant. Looking forward to going up to the castle later on, hopefully. You can walk up there. You can also drive up to the rear. It's got like a car park area. Yesterday evening we went to a restaurant down here that was recommended to us by the Airbnb host, and it was called Mizzarola. The shivapi was absolutely amazing. Like the seasoning, the way they cook the meat is so fine. This is the place, Mizzarola. It's got a nice terrace on the roof as well. Check this out. So if you're particularly fond of seafood and fish, oysters and that sort of thing, I've got good news for you. That kind of food's very popular here, and it's very popular in Split as well. And up and down the Dalmatian coast, you can get really fine fish, really fine oysters. In fact, some of the locals we've spoken to have recommended a few restaurants in particular, so make sure you go on TripAdvisor and Expedia. If you're a fan of that sort of thing, or if you just want to try something new, check out Expedia, check out TripAdvisor and see what the top rated places are, because it's supposed to be among the finest fish in all of Croatia in this sort of Dalmatian coast area. Also, I noticed last night that, and for those of you who maybe watched the previous video when we arrived to Hvar from the Split, and we explored and got our first impressions of the place, that I was referring to this area as Starigrad. And the reason for that is Starigrad means old town, and you may have remembered me mentioning before that a lot of the places I've been to in this part of the Balkans, the old town area of a city or town is referred to as Starigrad. So I was referring to this as Starigrad. However, it can be quite confusing because there's a town called Starigrad on the other side of Hvar, which is actually the destination name of the ferry, the car ferry and the ferry, passenger ferry that comes from Split. It's going from Split port to Starigrad, which is easy to get mixed up, at least it was for me, because I just assumed that it was referring to this old town area, this Starigrad, but in fact there is somewhere on a map or town called Starigrad. Now, with just under 3,000 hours of sunlight a year, which is what Hvar experiences, you can definitely see it lives up to that. So right now we're over here, and this gives us an idea of how big Hvar Town is. Most of the touristy bits and all the attractions are all concentrated around that area there, which is quite nice. So I just spotted this. Looks like there are some operators that offer on-island hire services, rental services for different modes of transport. Got electric bicycles, scooters, ATVs. Can't really speak for local transport on the island. I've not seen any buses so far. There are taxis obviously, but buses and that sort of thing, I'm not sure how often or how frequent they run or where they run to, so I think that you would be restricted if you didn't have access to some mode of transport to get around the island. I'd really fully appreciate it. Hvar Island is also called the Island of Lavender. So I was reading that this is a Franciscan monastery. For Franciscan monks, which were an order of monks that were established by, I believe, Francis of Assisi. Francis of Assisi, when he established this order, if I remember correctly, he gave up his all of his possessions and was basically living a very modest lifestyle of worship and prayer.
Lunch, maybe?
No thanks. So this must be the coat of arms for Hvar Town, maybe Hvar Island as well. So the Venetians were here, I was reading that back there, Venetian rule back in the 16th century. And you can definitely see their influence. So just picked up some groceries for our Airbnb, and these Studenac, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, these markets, we saw some in Split and we've seen a few here in Hvar Island, and they're very, very handy. You've got everything you need, fresh produce, vegetables, fruit, nice bakery, really handy if you need anything for your hotel or Airbnb. I've got everything I need, including some local Croatian beer, which I'm looking forward to sampling. A few hours have passed. The weather has not gotten any warmer, to be honest with you. Still a bit overcast, still windy, but we're not letting that stop us from going out and exploring more of this place. So we read online that the fort closes at 6. However, because our Airbnb is so close, it's only a 15-minute walk, we're going to walk up and see if that's actually the case or not. Yeah, so I'm sure I've seen activity up beside the fort yesterday evening, so if that is the case, then maybe the fort has like an observation deck or something like that that we can get to without having to pay. But we'll find out in just a second when we arrive there. So we thought that was the entrance for the castle or the fort, but it's not. That might be an area of it that they're still constructing or they're redeveloping perhaps.
About 200 meters that way.
But we are close, we are close. Rulston, the reliable navigator, has just told us that it's about 200 meters ahead of us. So we're almost there. You can tell by the tour buses behind us that we're fairly close. So we're walking up to the fort just now, and it looks like Well, there's no other cars here, so it looks like the fort is closed. And the lack of cars here would suggest that. Lack of people. We've not seen anyone walking about, but there is like a luminous yellow. Is that a beetle or a citron ahead of us? I'm not sure. Ah, main entrance is that way, but check out this view. This would have been stunning in the sunlight. We're not getting the full splendor of this vantage point in the overcast, the wind. Still an impressive view of the islands. And you can see the fort, castle, defensive, the walls here. This is actually the fort itself. And there is a wall leading down closer towards the town centre square down there on the other side of here. Just bear in mind though, if you want to get into the fort, then you have to be here before 6 p.m. I think the opening times are they 9 till 6, Rulston? Yeah, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And unfortunately we've just missed it. I say just, we're about an hour and a half late, so it's our own doing. I think the vantage point that this location offers was the main thing, the main reason that Rulston and I were wanting to walk up here. So Rulston, what do you think of this place? This like castle, I mean.
Yeah, it's impressive. I wish we could have gone inside to see it.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if that in the distance is something called a Klappa choir that I've read about. Or it might just be people singing, but when we were in Split the other day, there's a traditional type of folk singing here in Croatia. I think it's called Klappa. And the other day when I was walking through Diocletian's Palace area, there was like a courtyard bit and there was like 4 or 5 guys doing this Klappa, and it was very interesting to hear it. It's the first time I've heard it. It's got a very distinctive sound to it, but it added to the atmosphere of the place, and yeah, it's quite cool to hear. The Klappa singing is native to the Dalmatian region of Croatia. So as I may have mentioned in previous videos in the Croatia vlog series, we've came here at an interesting time. It's actually coming up for 35 years since Croatia declared its independence from Yugoslavia. Under Franjo Tuđman, they declared independence from Yugoslavia, and that sparked a very vicious and violent conflict. A few years later they gained their full independence. In 2013 they joined the European Union, and I believe it was at the start of 2023, January 2023 might have been, they joined the Eurozone as well. I think it was maybe the Croatian kuna that they had. Dobro došli. You see the admission prices here for the castle. For the fortress, looks like there are combined ticket prices and individual ticket prices for the whole thing. 15 euros for an adult, 9 euros for children, students or seniors. But if you're just interested in the fortress, 12 euros. And that's the opening hours. Interesting. Okay, so it's 9 until 7 it's showing there, but it looks like it's closed. Yeah, it's locked. So maybe it's just because of the high winds or something like that, because I know you can probably get up here on the platform and the wall, so maybe it's because of the weather conditions. Maybe it's too windy, because it's very windy, so I guess maybe they wouldn't want someone falling off of there. But that gives you an idea how big it is. So we do have some time tomorrow morning before we push off to our next location. So we might come back here and check out the fort then, because the fort is one of the highlights of the area, so it'd be a shame to miss it. So I was reading a wee bit more about Croatia's more modern history in the 20th century and 21st century, and after the First World War, Croatia became part of, it was 1918, Croatia became part of the kingdom of Serbs, Croats and Slovenes. And then 1941, I believe it was, when the Germans invaded and they installed like a fascist sort of puppet regime under Ante Pavelic. And then when he was removed and opposed, obviously during that time you had who would then go on to become the leader of Yugoslavia, Josip Broz Tito and his guerrilla sort of partisan movement, who were resisting against the fascists. When the fascists were overthrown and booted out, then the country of Croatia was absorbed into, I think it was, because Yugoslavia has had a few different name changes over the years, I believe, so I think it was the People's Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, which would then go on to become the Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia. And then 1991, obviously you had Croatia under Franjo Tudjman declaring Croatia's independence from Yugoslavia. They eventually won their independence in 1995, I think it was. There's a hill, I don't know how to pronounce it, so you'll have to forgive me, but there's a hill in Dubrovnik called Crd or CRD, and apparently there's like a small museum up there that's dedicated to the defenders of Dubrovnik during the siege of Dubrovnik during the Croatian War of Independence. It should be interesting to learn a wee bit more about that aspect of it. But that being said, it goes without saying, guys, that I'm by no means an expert in the topic. I would never claim to be an expert, would never claim to be someone who's got a wealth of knowledge about it. So what I would do is, I would suggest that if you want to learn more about it and the breakup of Yugoslavia, I strongly suggest that you go onto YouTube and you watch a documentary that was produced by the BBC in the mid to late 1990s called The Death of Yugoslavia. Now that documentary is fascinating because it interviews a lot of the key players that were involved and that were around, and decision makers that were around at that time. So, you know, it interviews Franjo Tudjman of Croatia, Ali Izetbegovic of Bosnia, and Slobodan Milosevic of Serbia, Milan Kucan of Slovenia, all the leaders of these countries where there was fierce fighting, and some of the other, obviously, world country leaders of the other nations that were involved. Also interviews like Lord Carrington and some of the folks who were involved in trying to secure a peace agreement as well during this conflict between different countries in this region. So absolutely would 100% recommend that you try and track down that documentary and give it a watch. It is fascinating. It's in 6 parts, but the entire continuous sort of run of it is on YouTube, so strongly recommend that if you're wanting to learn a wee bit more about Yugoslavia and in particular the Croatian War of Independence in the 1990s. We got unlucky with that fort this evening, but tomorrow we'll head back and hopefully we can get in and learn a wee bit about it and get some views during like morning time. So the plan just now is Rulston and I are going to head down to the town square, try and get something to eat, and yeah, hope you've enjoyed exploring Hvar Town with us on our second day here, and we'll catch up with you tomorrow on the next the next leg of our journey. Yeah, we'll catch up with you then. Take care, stay safe, keep traveling.